Hi, I'm Sharon Stammers. I'm one of the co-founders of the Women in Lighting project, and we'd like to welcome you to one of a series of 3 new interviews for the project, each with a woman working in entertainment lighting. So we're going to kick off on the first one, and I'm going to ask our first guest to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about where she's from and what her job is, and to tell us how she got into lighting. So, hi.
Hi, Sharon. How are you?
Good.
My name is Mildred. I'm from Zimbabwe. I'm a lighting designer, well, self-taught lighting designer, really. And I work for a company called the Phenomenal Lighting and Power Solutions, which I established in 2011. Yeah, so I design, I program, I run the cabling, I cut the gels. We still have gels. We still use filters in Zimbabwe. um, yeah, and I got into lighting back in 2004. I was a wanderer. I come from a family with a lot of trouble, so I never spent a lot of time at home because there was always trouble at home. So I would walk around and wander around the streets of the neighborhood, and one of the days when I'd run away from home, I came across a building, a big building. I was 15, I think, that time. The building it looked enormous. I mean, it looks smaller now that I'm older, but then it looked very enormous. And I walked inside. The doors were wide open. Once I got inside, I went all the way inside the auditorium. I didn't know it was a theater. As soon as I walked in there, I saw a lot of people on the stage. There were lights. There were, I think, ballerinas. They were in their costumes. It must have been a full tech dress rehearsal. And it was just mesmerizing. I spent most of my day in there that day. I loved everything. I loved the way they moved on stage. The dancers, especially, they would stand on their toes and tiptoe across the stage. I loved the way that the costumes would change when the light came on. And it just seemed like a happy place, like everyone was just having fun, and I'd never seen anything like that before in my life. And that was the beginning of my journey. I started spending more time in that space. In no time, I made friends. I joined the dance class. I thought, you know what, I'm going to be a dancer. I'm going to wear those nice costumes and walk on my toes and look cool on stage. But a few months later, I realized that I had 2 left feet. I was not a dancer, I was not a dancer. I was terrible at it. But I thought I wanted to stay within the magical space. So I thought, well, if I can't dance, then I'm going to like the dancers. I'm going to make them look pretty, and the journey began. That's how my journey began in the lighting.
Have you got any formal sort of education or training in lighting, or is it all self-taught?
I do not have formal education in lighting. We actually do not have facilities in Zimbabwe that teach lighting. So for me, it has been hands-on learning on the job, and I've been privileged enough to meet. We have a festival, or at least we used to have a festival called HIFA, Harare International Festival of the Arts, which I was privileged to join when I was, I think, 17. One of my mentors made me join it. I think for the first 2 years, I was his runner. I didn't have a specific job, really. My job was to make his life as comfortable as I possibly could. But one thing that I loved about that festival is that it had a diversity. It brought in a lot of international lighting designers, and they would give free workshops. So I made a point of joining at the workshops, and they would bring gels like leaf filters. We used to use the strand, I think, strand gels. So they would bring new stuff and books to read, anything really, and yeah, I learned how to put up a nice, beautiful show with 10 lights, 6 lights, And that really helped me a lot in my growth in lighting. So that festival, it opened my eyes a lot, and I met a lot of amazing people on there.
So we know that you are planning to come and study at Rose Bruford in the UK. What's the reason you picked that particular school?
Rose Bruford. How I came across Rose Bruford, I started a masterclass in my country, first of its own kind. It's called the Phenomenal Lighting Masterclass in 2019, where I train young girls for lighting, because in the past 20 years, I'm still the only female doing lighting professionally in my country. And I felt that it's because perhaps that we don't have like a hub, a safe space to say it's okay to be different. Like for me, it was difficult to get into it because I come from I'm black. I come from a black family that doesn't have exposure to theater. So when I discovered theater, it was a difficult thing even within the family to say I'm doing lighting. So we'd have fights where you're trying to explain that no, it's not the bulb in the house. It's a different lighting that I'm talking about. So there's no history of lighting in my family. People struggle to understand what I was about, and that and I also struggled to explain what it meant to me, because it was like a rehabilitation place, like a safe haven. I don't know if it makes any sense. Yeah. So and then when I started this class, it's because I wanted to create a safe space for girls to say, maybe you are a creative and you don't know how to explain it, or you don't have someone to assist you and actually pointing you in the right direction, so you can come and learn. So 2019, we would meet twice a month, face to face. And then when COVID happened, we went into lockdown. And in 2020, I launched the Phenomenal Lighting Masterclass online, on Zoom. So I reached out to the international lighting designers to come. I think for me, I was looking for inspiration, because I was in a space where I didn't know what to do with myself. I wasn't used to being in confinement, and I was struggling, and also my girls, because some of them had never been to a theater before or to a concert before. So I needed to inspire them, to say, we're not alone. There are other people out there who are doing maybe much better than us, but we're all the same. And sorry, I think I've forgotten the question. Can we take that again?
It was fine. It's just like a really nice story. I said what made you choose Rose Bruford, but
yeah, Rose, yes. So I was.
Hang on, before you answer that, I was just going to say what you were saying about providing a safe space and allowing young women to figure out if they're creative or not. The other thing that you're doing that's really important is you're being an incredible role model. And once people see that you do this job or you have this position, that opens the door for other people to realize that they can do the same thing. So that sounds like a really kind of amazing program.
Thanks
but now
so
you can
much.
tell me why you picked Rose Bruford.
I was going there. So when I started the masterclass, I reached out to Patrick Woodruff. I met Patrick 2000. Well, I watched his work. That was this is it. Michael Jackson. So while I was watching that, because Michael Jackson was my childhood hero, so I went in there trying to see his last work before he died. And while I was watching that piece, I was amazed at the lighting. I'd never seen so many lights in one venue. It was insane. It was crazy, And I mean, I've done big festivals in my country. Well, at least they're big in my country, but we've never used that many lights. So that was the one thing that I saw, and then also the way that it was a rehearsal, but it was it was perfect actually. So I thought to myself, if this guy had lived long enough to do the actual show, wow, the lighting would have been out of this world. Yeah. So there I am. I'm now looking at the light, not Michael Jackson. I'm just mesmerized by the lighting. At the end of the video, I looked up the name of the designer, and I saw Patrick, and I sent him an email. I think that must have been on the 4th of July, 2012. I think also just my heart was full. I was just happy and inspired, and I didn't know who to talk to. Like, sometimes you need someone that understands your language or what makes you tick. That maybe if you're in the same wavelength, they can understand why you're this excited about this one thing. And sadly, around my area, there's not too many people that understand lighting. So I sent him an email and I poured my heart out and I said to him, I'm just a girl from Southern Africa in Zimbabwe. I've just been watching this show and wow, you've just inspired me. And I hope one day I'll be able to inspire others as you've inspired me. And that was the beginning of my relationship with Patrick, because he responded. I think it was a few days later. I cried. I was I was overwhelmed because I went to check my email internet cafe, and there was an email from him. He just said, "Thank you for your kind words. I hope maybe someday we'll get to work together, and I'm glad that my work inspires you." And that was the best thing that it ever happened to me. At least no one believed me anyway that I wrote to this guy who did lighting for Michael Jackson, and he actually replied. But anyway, fast forward to back to your question. So the masterclass online, I invited Patrick for my first masterclass, and he agreed to come and share with us his journey in lighting, and that was absolutely amazing. And then I met Hans Jörg Schmidt from Rose Bruford, yes, and then we had a chat before you gave a talk in the masterclass. He just said, I'd like to meet you and just talk to you and see what you're about. So he told me about the school and what they offer at the school, and he gave me the website link, and I checked it out, and I thought, wow, this is amazing, and I'd love to be part of this thing. It never crossed my mind that I could actually go and study lighting. But yeah, it's just been inspiration, and just feeling that, there's more out there to be had. And yeah.
One of what your sort of story about Patrick, I think, is sort of typical of the lighting industry and our experience of it, that you reach out to people in all these different countries and sort of, like you say, open your heart and share your joy and passion. And
Yes.
pretty much 99 times out of 100, that person will respond. And over the years, we've made so many connections just on that basis, just like, hello, we love your work, talk to us. And, I think that's very unique about people that work with light, is that we do like to connect that, shared passion.
That's true.
But one of the things I was going to ask you is, when you were saying, I have this amazing picture of you kind of creeping into the back of the theatre and sort of seeing what's going on, and like finding some joy in that space. But before that moment, were you sort of did you have a kind of excitement about light itself, or was it something you saw or were interested in, or it came to you in the theatre?
No, I didn't even know there was a theatre or lighting apart from the sun and the moon and the stars. I feel like, for me, I always say that I feel like light found me. I didn't find the light; it found me, because when I got to that space, I stopped wandering around. I was grounded in that space, and I found my space I could fit in. And then I had friends. I didn't need to be anything else that I wasn't. I didn't need to explain myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think my first job was, I was a gel cutter. For almost a year, my job was to cut gel. So the 6 month, I knew the size of the Fresnel, of the floodlights for the SAG. It was amazing. And then later on, I met a guy called Michael Leb, and he was the lighting designer for the theater at that time. And he gave me a board, like a circuit board for the theater. And he said to me, do you know how this thing works? And I said, no. Everything to me was new. I was just always looking around. I'm also an inquisitive person. And he saw that. So he'd always try and teach me things, even if I didn't understand, he'd repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. And this circuit board is for the lights. So when we run the lights, they've come from the circuit to the dimmers, then from the dimmers to the channels. That was the first thing that okay. So it became a song in my head. Okay, so it's circuit, and then it's the dimmers, and it's dimmers, and it says to me, this is how we get control of the lights on the board. Wow, that's actually very interesting. Then from there, I became a sporter. There's a lady called Sabrina, but these guys did lighting in the theater. It was like a community. They didn't do lighting outside the theater. It was like it's a hobby for them. They just come and go when they're free. So Sabrina was very particular about the photo spot. Yeah, she would roll up a magazine or a newspaper. So you weren't allowed to have your elbows like this when you're controlling the spot. She would hit you and say, put your elbows down and breathe and relax and be one with your subject. And it was nice. It was different.
It'd be interesting to know that one of my very first lighting jobs was sorting out gels in a cupboard, which you just reminded me of. I remember being shut in a cupboard for about 2 whole days, like literally figuring out the sizes and the colours. But that's a long time ago. You've mentioned quite a lot of people already, so mentors and designers. I mean, is there a lighting designer or someone that you would love to collaborate with, or someone that particularly inspires you?
Oh, definitely.
Say all of them.
All of them. Oh, well, I think all of the ones that came on to participate on my masterclass, I would love to collaborate with them, especially Patrick Woodruff. Patrick, Polly, she's amazing. She's a superwoman. I always say one day when I grow up, I want to be like you. She's amazing. And also, I would like to collaborate with Michael Curry from America. He's a production designer. He came on my masterclass, and I remember he said to me, I don't work with lighting. I'm not a lighting designer, but I work with lighting all the time because the work that I do involves or works closely with lighting. He was amazing. He was really amazing on the masterclass. I felt really inspired because you know how you look at someone online and you see how big they are and how they've accomplished so much, and then they come on the masterclass, they become themselves, and they're like, you know what, this is where I started off. I was this poor, I did this, I did that, I struggled, and then this happened, and then you sort of somewhat relate to them. They become human, So I was inspired by his story. I'd love one day maybe to just be in a studio and see the puppets, especially for Lion King, because that's my favorite cartoon. Yeah.
That's actually a good link into this next question. I mean, quite often, we're very much, our careers have been in lighting for architecture. So it's a sort of slightly different process, different equipment. But one of the things that we often talk about around the world is how culturally we approach things differently. So the way we see light, the way we think about light. Maybe I need to ask you this after you've lived in the UK for a bit, but is that something you've been aware of when you've had these people you've interviewed on your masterclass? Do you think people culturally approach lighting design differently?
No, I don't think so. No, I think like music, I think lighting is universal. The only thing that would differ probably would be the lighting style and the context, but otherwise the objective is still the same. You're illuminating something, so then the style would be, or how you express yourself using the light. Like I personally, I'm a theatrical lighter. I love theater pieces. I love dance. I love also lighting I love lighting pieces that are dark. You know, I love that
That's
pieces.
the kind of
It
difference
just
that, yeah, that's the sort of difference that we talk about in architecture. Is say, so like in Asia, everything's about, you know, shadows and darkness and the moon, whereas we're much more kind of in a you know, the Western world, more obsessed with sun and light. And it'd be interesting if you live in another country whether your experience with natural light will affect you as a designer. Who knows? Who knows?
who knows? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking
You,
forward to that.
you did mention a little bit earlier about how the sort of how the pandemic had affected you. I think that was before we started the interview. So, I mean, can you sort of explain a bit how the last year and a half have been for you in particular?
The 2020 March, I think for me was probably the most difficult time in the past 2 years because I had a lot of shows lined up, festivals, concerts, and all of them. At first, they were postponed, and then a month later, they were completely cancelled. And then we went into lockdown. First time in my life actually to be at home for 3 weeks. No movement, no movement. You know, I think it's difficult for people like us to be in confinement. I struggled. I'm a single mother of two. You know, my son is is 14 now. He was 13 last year. So I had a teenager at home that I didn't have to deal with all the time. You know,
Mm.
but when
Yeah,
COVID came, there was no work, there was nowhere to go, and then I was stuck at home with being a mother. Like reality was in my face, and I struggled. Yeah,
yeah,
and I think that's the reason why in August I started the masterclass online, just to keep the fire alive, the lighting fire alive in us, to try and have the conversations about lighting and see um, if other people out there were struggling with things that we're struggling with here in Zimbabwe. And it turns out we were on the same wavelength. Well, I think now it's a little bit better because I'm learning how to deal with it or work with what's the new norm, but physical, for us to light, we have to be in the space. So if we shut down, it's devastating. It's yeah, it's bad.
Do, are things changing a bit now? Are shows on again? Is work? Do people are able to go to venues? Not yet.
No, no. We I think we've been pre-recording stuff, but the current lockdowns, level 4, and we've been told not to gather, not to do anything, just to stay at home and hope for the best.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Oh,
schools are closed as well. So,
back to what you were saying about being the only female working in your industry in Zimbabwe. Do you
mhm.
believe that women have a sort of equal opportunity in your work field? Is there space for them? Is it hard to get into theatre lighting design, or how do you view it?
um, it's it's difficult to get into the field. It's yeah, but the question is how hard do you want it? I think for me it's always that I don't believe in the blame game. I just believe that for me, when I was at Reps Theatre for 5 years, not paid. I was on every production, and they don't pay, but I learned everything I know today at Reps, and I'm super grateful for that knowledge. Um, and then after 5 years, I felt like I was suffocating because there was nothing new anymore. Like by then I knew everything, and I wanted more. So I started pushing the the boundaries. I wanted to get out, but there was no other female out there doing lighting, and it was hard. So I went out there and I made my own space. You can't sit and wait for people to make space for you. If you want it, go out there and get it. Um, Yeah, sorry, that's just what I think. I feel like we cripple ourselves a lot, women, because sometimes it's really not about the men. It's about what's inside of you. Well, you know, when I talk to my girls, I say to them, I had a choice of being maybe a maid, a housemaid, or a receptionist, or because it's what my people wanted for me, my family, my friends, and it said that people that are supposed to be supporting you, I think society in general, if they don't understand you or what you're about, they'll put you in a box. They'll say all sorts about you and say, you know, something's off about her or something's off about him. But it's up to you, you know, how bad do you want it? Because it doesn't have to make sense to the next person. As long as it makes sense to you and it's not illegal, it's not illegal.
Yeah, yeah.
Go.
Forge your own journey, make your own path.
Yes. And it didn't make sense to me at all. You know, I mean, sometimes I'd be depressed because I didn't understand myself. I felt like something was wrong with me because people around me kept saying the same thing over and over. Why are you not like so and so? Why are you not like, you could get a job at, you know, you could do this. And I tried, you know, I think twice I tried to work at DHL. I was a customer service person, and I'd always bounce back to lighting. So eventually I embraced it and I said, you know what, this is where I am. This is where I feel most comfortable. And it's okay. If you don't understand me, it's fine. So I feel like women just need to, if you know it's in you and you want it, go out there, create space for yourself and
But it
go.
also sounds like
You
you're
know?
helping to open doors for other people with what you found in your journey. So it sounds like that's a helpful thing for other people to have, is, you know, someone who's walked the route beforehand, and can turn around and say the things you're saying, whereas you had the hard job of, you know, doing it first. So, I mean, I there's hundreds of things I could ask you, but I was just going to ask you sort of about how light inspires you, or where you look for inspiration. I mean, you've talked about other designers. Are there other things like film, light art, or, you know, what is it that you find inspiration when it comes to light?
Wow, what a question. I don't know. I'm inspired by the darkness, you know, dead
Okay,
things.
yeah, that's a good answer. I should have incorporated that, but carry on.
I'm inspired by darkness and dead space, dead things. You know, I feel like everything starts in the darkness, and light comes with life. It brings life. Light is disruptive, you know, and I love the transition from dead to life with color or light, or it's just amazing how it quickly changes everything, you know, even just the way you feel when you look at the piece, or especially dancers. I think when you sculpt the dancers, they look amazing on stage. So yeah, just my inspiration comes from darkness and dead spaces.
I think I can't remember who said it, but someone said the things that you don't like are as important as the things you do like. So yeah, that kind of covers that.
That is so
Is there?
true. Yes. And just to add on, well, not add on, but just talk about Polly. Polly. Polly inspired me a lot. With the other reason why I'd love to collaborate with her is that she advocates for women in theatre, and she's accomplished quite a lot, you know, according to my standard, and I'm really, really inspired and looking forward to meeting her when I come to London. I'm super excited. You know, I wish I could open my heart so you see what's happening inside.
No, I believe you. And having met her and her sort of opened the door to talk about women in entertainment lighting when we were starting this project, I emailed her. I didn't know her. She's very famous. She answered. I went to meet her. So I do completely understand. And
she was in my masterclass.
She'd be brilliant. You've had a brilliant lineup in your masterclass.
Yeah.
Are they online? Can anyone watch them? or is it a special
I
group?
haven't posted them online. I would ask all my guests if I could record the sessions, because most of my girls can't afford data. Data here is expensive.
Yeah.
So and also it's a self-funded project. So they all agreed. I'm glad they all agreed for me to record. So I haven't really shared. They were just meant for me and my girls. But also I've also opened my doors to boys as well, because I realized that they don't have anywhere else to go for training. So I just pretty much teach them what I know, or at least what I've experienced in the lighting world, and then I add on stuff from the videos, just to boost their confidence and believe that there's more out there to be had, and just keep pushing and believing.
Well, if you ever want anyone to do a class on architectural lighting, I'm sure me and Martin would do it. So.
Yay!
Okay. Thank you. We'll end there. Thank you very much, Mildred, and we really look forward to meeting you when you get to the UK.
And thank you so much. I'm praying. I'm doing everything that I can to make sure that I'm there by September this year. I'm looking forward to meeting you guys.